It's baking hot, but wearing a summer dress hasn't felt safe for this teenager since she was seriously sexually assaulted. Not out in the open, but on the bus to school. She was just 13.
It just happened out of nowhere, and I was so young, I didn't even know what, sex meant. I didn't even know what it was. I remember his fingernails were so sharp, and that's just literally the thing that still I can feel sometimes. I tried to block so much of it out, but that's one of the things I still feel sometimes, that pain.
The school, she later learnt, had no policy for dealing with assaults by other students. Instead, the head of pastoral care asked her to reenact it with another schoolmate.
He said, "Could you just roughly show me what happened?" And he expected me to just tell him to touch me in these places, and he probably didn't even know what sex was. The fact that he was asked to, he touched me on the right part of my thigh and then the other places, and he was just, the whole time, he just looked like he was about to cry.
School should be a safe environment, but Everyone's Invited has shared new figures with ITV News that show in private and state schools alike, it often doesn't feel that way, and are warning schools not on the list against complacency.
Because you're not named, it doesn't mean that it doesn't exist, and we really fear for those individuals and survivors and victims and young people who are in those schools and still suffering from the violence or abuse that they may have been victim to.
And yet the shocking level of sexual violence among children was highlighted to Ofsted 5 years ago in a damning government report.
How badly have schools let down this generation of youngsters?
I think schools are, quite frankly, struggling with the sheer scale of this. This is the next scandal we've had to come to terms with, and will have to come to terms with, and will have to deal with. It cannot be right that every day young girls, and we're talking about primary age girls as well, are having to run the gauntlet of sexual harassment, misogyny, the sending of nudes, unsolicited indecent images being sent to them.
Even with limited resources, some schools have worked hard to educate both teachers and pupils alike. But this teenager's abuser was back in school 3 days later, a teacher calling them both in for a meeting.
He was crying, but smirking, and every chance he'd get, he'd be smiling at me. And he said sorry. He admitted to everything. The teacher looked so proud of him. And I was so gone, I was gone then, everything, all my innocence, everything in that moment was gone. And I walked out and I called my mum and I said, I can't go back.
What happens inside schools often reflects the world outside, but failing to stop sexual violence within them risks too many more childhoods slipping away. Rachel Younger, News at 10.